This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of having Jeff Kazmucha coming from Northern California, AMP Venture Partners. He's going to tell us about how to get companies started in our fitness and Halo sector, what to look for, and how we are going to change the world as we come together as a sector. So Jeff, welcome to Halo Talks.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So why don't you start off with your personal background and give people a little history on why you become an expert in this early stage space and how you help companies get from point A to point B.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, AMP Venture Partners. I formed AMP Venture Partners about the end of last year. It was something that was always brewing, honestly, for seems like forever. In the year 2000. Moved out to California and I was actually a coach, strength and conditioning coach, and also a clinical exercise physiologist. And I believe having that background in fitness and nutrition and actually working with athletes as well as the general population was just learning a lot about business and how fitness and the fitness sector, all the companies there and brands were put together and grew, became profitable. And so as I started to come to Silicon Valley and became entrenched with all the hustle, all the sweat, the failures and the successes, I learned quite a bit and was able to jump onto a lot of different companies and paid attention to what they were missing. What were some of their gaps? Like, oh, we really need this. We need some industry expertise because we have this product that, we want to bring to market, but we really don't know how to do it. And it's for fitness professionals, for example. So having that, the ability to kind of offer my knowledge of living it, able to kind of help those kind of companies. So what happened was after I had done this long enough and experienced, enough failures, which is fine with me. That's how we learn. I kind of put two and two together and started paying attention and doing a lot of outreach to companies that were willing to talk about their product, and it allowed me a chance to kind of learn what they're doing. What's their vision in terms of the fitness industry and how they can help people. And I drew a line, and then in that line, I kind of formed AMP Venture Partners based on Dan Pink's term, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. It's something I live by and something I strive to achieve with the companies I work with. With autonomy, you really want a founder who's able to make those, self-directed, critical, key decisions. He has that autonomy to do so without hesitation. Mastery, and he or she doesn't necessarily have to be an expert, but as we know, team is important. So do they have a member on their team that actually can provide that industry expertise? And the purpose being the fire, like that thing, like when you wake up every morning, like, is it something that you wake up, you jump out of bed and you're like so excited to kind of drive through and whatever barriers you face, you're just going to figure it out. And, I live by those three things, and those are the three things that's why I formed AMP is because that's what I look for in those kind of companies.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. You talk about, trying things in the past and failing. I mean, somebody told me one time that the word fail is first attempt in learning is what that stands for. So, and we always use this term, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. So if you or I can bring that experience to someone else and say, hey, look, you're playing this game of, chutes and ladders to come up with like an old school board game. Let me keep you away from the chutes and trying to, highlight where those ladders are, so you can maybe skip a few spaces on the game. That's kind of the key. As you look at companies that, when you assess, okay, you're in the right place, but you haven't really identified the frustration that you're solving. Maybe that goes towards your point about, mastery of whatever the solution that the company is trying to provide. I think some people in our industry come in from the outside and say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I did this? But like, no one's actually, you're not solving anyone's pain point. You might be like the equivalent of adding like a bell or whistle to like a Christmas tree. So how do you think about that? And how do you, politely advise someone that, that's a really cool idea, but it's not something that is going to resonate with fitness professionals. So kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very subjective, to be honest. The first thing I will always look at in terms of what is a product and, what is it doing? I often ask myself a question like, would I use that? One of the first companies I started kind of helping was called the Lifestyle Social, based out of Denver. And it was kind of like a CRM model in a sense, but with exercise prescription and nutrition counseling. It kind of did a little bit of everything, to be honest, which was kind of intriguing at the time. It was, quite a while ago. But one of my friends was a, investor with Kleiner Perkins. And so we arranged a meeting, we pitched to him, and he turned to me and was like, Jeff, would you use this? And I had a long pause. I'm like, and I thought to myself, I don't think I would. And it dawned on me then, like as an advisor and a consultant and how I work with companies, that it's essential for me to be the cheerleader, a champion, a voice of compassion with the founders, to which I'm able to kind of help steer them in the right direction based on me feeling as though this is something I really, really want to come to fruition. Mm-hmm. And so, I kind of want to make sure that it's clear that, when I work with companies in particular, that this is something that I'm very passionate about. I really believe in, companies like Carbon Trainer and Holodia, those kind of companies that I really feel like in the future, these have a big footprint that's ready for them. And so when a company is coming out with a product that doesn't just quite seem like fit per se, I'm just brutally honest with them. That's simple as that. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with being brutally honest and telling them how it is. I mean, they have their vision, and I totally respect that. I respect every person that I speak to, every founder out there in the world. Like, they're doing something, kudos to them. But I don't necessarily want it to put out their fire. But what I want to do is say, hey, I understand what you're doing. I understand where you want to go. But in order for us to get to this, we have to reach this milestone and this milestone and this milestone first. Okay, so let's approach this one first. So I try to just be very humble and very compassionate about how we approach things, achieving one milestone after another.
I mean, that's an interesting point. Just a couple of comments there. I used to work at an investment bank, and they wanted me to do what I love to do, which is health, fitness, Halo related companies. And they said, hey, can you spend half of your time doing industrial nanotechnology and pumps and valves, because there's a lot of consolidation. I'm like, to be honest with you, I don't care about that at all. I mean, I'm glad it's out there and that somebody's doing it, but I'm not going to get excited about it. And if I'm not excited about it, I don't know if I'm going to have enough inertia to push a deal through. So I love the fact that you say, as a hurdle to you actually helping a company and for taking on a client, that you actually have to believe in the product itself. And I think if more advisors and banks and even accountants and lawyers, if you don't understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, then it's going to be hard for you to help me make a business decision if you don't really get the product that I'm providing. And then the other point, just to bring up, because it's a funny story, several years ago, Dave, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a guy at our old Colo who was pitching me on this healthy restaurant concept in downtown Detroit. And he went on and he was telling me how awesome it's going to be. And I'm like, hey, where do you live in Detroit? He's like, no, dude, I live in Tribeca. I'm like, dude, if you don't live where this thing is going to be, it's probably not going to be what you think it is. So at the end of the conversation, I just assumed that he lived in Detroit, right? He's pitching me on this great concept that he's going to do multi-unit, rollout and I'm like, hey, where do you live down there? He's like, no, man, I don't live there. So I was just all right, that kind of ended the conversation. So I think in these early stage companies, I agree with you. You kind of need to be an evangelist. You almost have to surround yourself with other evangelists that maybe will help you put a little bit of a governor or maybe a box around what your idea is, because you have experience. So when you look at companies and say, hey, look, you guys have something here, you got a piece of clay, let me help you kind of mold it. What role do you play through AMP Venture Partners so people understand what your mission is and what your product deliverables are?
Um, you said the word evangelist, and I think that's kind of like what I try to become. One of my good friends, his name is Chris McCaskill, and he's a longtime Silicon Valley kind of successful entrepreneur, kind of rolled through Silicon Valley as an evangelist. And, he came out, he by the way, if you ever have a chance to kind of look him up and hear some of his TED Talks and stuff, it's incredible guy. But he came out here with a small family and ended up with no money, took on a job working with Steve Jobs at Next, and continued to work with him at a very high level. And he ended up being an evangelist with Steve Jobs. And I've heard some just crazy stories about like how how Steve Jobs was, and what Chris's role was as an evangelist to kind of help Steve really take Next to where it was. But ultimately, some people feel like it was a failure of his, but honestly, it wasn't, not by any means. But I've learned a lot about how Chris is sort of like became successful using like a launch pad through Next, and built his career going from company to company and selling a couple here and there. And what I've learned is, like, when you go and become an evangelist, as I said earlier, you kind of have to be a champion. You got to be a cheerleader, and you got to be that like compassionate voice. So for me to kind of come into these companies and be an evangelist, again, I'm going to make sure that I'm really passionate about this product, and I feel firmly that this is something that the industry needs. Then I'm going to come on, I'm going to learn a crazy amount of information about it, to the point if I, even if I can get my hands on it as well, and to just play around and experiment with it. And knowing more about that is going to allow me the ability to kind of, go and pitch it to strategic partners, to investors. Because I have a lot of close friends who are investors in this industry. And the last thing I want to be able to do is kind of go up to them and say, hey, you should check out this product. Like, well, what does it do? I'm like, well, I don't want to skirt around the issue and sound like, I'm just mumbling words and stuff. I really need to understand what it is. So I'll work very closely with the founders, just so that I can align their vision with my understanding, so that I can go out and create these certain milestones. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, because we get this probably way too often, and my response is sometimes direct and sometimes it's not direct. I'll have someone call me up and like, it'll be a friend of a friend, and they'll call up and they'll say, hey man, can you get me into Equinox? Can you get me to like the CEO of Orange Theory? And I'm like one, slow down. Two, maybe that's actually not the right place to start. Like, let's go get some wins somewhere else, and not like go into like a large company and, find out that, one, it's going to be a 12 to 24 month sales cycle to even like get a beta. And two, you don't have the infrastructure to support that size account. And three, they just like, it's not one of the top 5 pain points for them right now. So how do you kind of think about, hey, look, I'm going to help you get to milestone A. Milestone A isn't necessarily like landing an elephant. Milestone A is like, killing an ant. And then let's kind of move up the food chain of, the pecking order of, hunting. How do you think about that?
Exactly what you said. I get those calls all the time. Like, hey, I want to, we have this awesome product. It's be perfect for Equinox, anytime fitness, you name it. Right. And it's like, okay, well, what do you do? Right. And I get it. Like, they want to make a big splash, but unfortunately, in order to make a big splash, it's going to take a lot of little splashes. So instead of focusing all your time and energy, and which is probably going to drive you crazy to try to connect to somebody like at Equinox, for example, let's focus on some smaller players, somebody who has a more of a drive to develop these strategic partnerships, somebody who has the vision per se to kind of work with compatible people, and integrate some stuff. As I talked with you guys earlier about playing in the sandbox, I really believe like the fitness industry in itself is going to come down to a lot of big players learning how to play well with others and play in that sandbox together. Unfortunately, as you get big, like, say Peloton, they don't really care. Why do they care to play in the sandbox with some smaller company that can offer like some sort of, an add value, but maybe it's not something that they really are concerned about right now. Like somebody like a Theragun, like do they really need to pay attention to like, compression recovery? They could, but probably not. So,
but 4 years ago when they were running around, Ursa with a 10 by 10 trade show booth and, selling inventory kind of, because they didn't want to schlep it back to their headquarters. Like back then they were nobody, and now they're, $100+ million revenue business. So I get your point. It's almost like you forget where you came from, but you weren't that far away from, that phase one, version one product launch. That wasn't like 10 years ago. That was like 36 months ago.
And I think too, like if you look at the companies, in the early stage, you're really trying to have that product market fit. And then you're trying to have that, proof of concept, product market fit, and you kind of get that. And once you can establish that, then you're definitely looking for like scalable opportunities. And I think that's like, for me, that's like where I like to come in, the bread and butter, where, okay, you're looking for scalable opportunities. Let's start to develop these strategic partners. But let's not go after like the behemoths, let's not go after Peloton and Tonal and like all these other companies, but, maybe somebody smaller who's up and coming, like a Carbon Trainer, for example, who I work with, there's opportunities there to which you can get into the connected fitness market or whatever market you wanted to do to gain, more subscribers and grow, exponentially that way.
So when you say that, I mean, obviously everybody, goes to Ursa. We're friends with Ursa and we're an Ursa member. I don't think, and they would agree, or whether I'm going to go on record for saying this, I don't think we did a great job of an industry to ensure that our businesses, one, were, available to get PPP money in the level that they should, or had a large enough voice, to be included in reopenings and to actually use the data and statistics to support that our businesses are actually safe places to be. I feel like that was that's a problem that's, been addressed now or shown light on. So when you talk about companies kind of getting together, are there any other sectors that you've worked in where you could say, hey, this industry works really well, whether it's in the restaurant industry, I know in the HR industry, or like maybe some unions, definitely like have a pretty vocal seat at the table. Ursa's kind of been a trade show that's kind of morphed into like an advocacy group. There's a group called FISO, which is kind of the fitness industry supplier association, which hasn't gotten to a point. And we like those guys, and Dinnerman did a nice job of putting together some stats, but it doesn't really have like the lobbyist weight that I think is unfortunately almost a requirement now, in the political and media world. So, maybe just leave it at that for a minute. Yeah.
I mean, to answer that in a little bit of a different way, one company that I believe has a way to really do something within the fitness industry that's not necessarily like fitness industry specific. I just connected with these guys, but it's a company called Bubble, and they are like, they're like Zoom, but more for like the many on many platform, to which the way I see it is with the fitness industry. You mentioned Ursa, and there's all these fitness conferences, right? There's fitness conferences, there's health conferences, there's so many conferences out there. And with COVID, we're kind of forced to be at home. We're forced to attend to these conferences virtually. Sooner or later, yeah, sure, we could probably go back to attending these conferences per se, but probably with the limited capacity, much like the gyms. We can go back, but it's going to be like on a schedule, reduced capacity, and so forth. So there's going to be virtual options. In the gym, there's going to be virtual options also with these conferences. And I see Bubble in a way that there's a great fit to where these fitness conferences, health conferences, can host these summits or whatnot, have as many people as possible come on board, listen to these thought leaders and these great presenters about particular topics, and then have the ability to go into these breakout rooms, to which you can hop back and forth. So I know a lot of times, like I've gone, I'm sure you have too, where you kind of, you sign up for like, oh, I need to go to the, breakout session room 1, and you kind of get in there. You're like, oh man, it really wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I'd have to sit here though. And virtually, you don't have to do that. And virtually, you can kind of go in, you kind of, oh, this isn't really what I thought it was. And then you can break out of that room and you can go into a different room. It has no disruption to the flow of the conference. The conference.
There's not like a digital option where you can like sneak out, like like underneath somebody's chair or something.
Like, you slam the door. You like slam the door. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they should have options. Like I'm leaving here, like you hear a door slam at the back. That's a good idea. I like that. Piss people off.
This sucks. No, yeah. but I think what that'll allow us to do as professionals in the industry is to be able to attend these things more readily without worrying about travel costs, room and board costs, and just worry about why you're going there, which is to learn new things and new content. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, what's your prognosis on the bricks and mortar health club industry in general? I definitely come from a place where people need an omni-channel approach, and I want to see my instructors, be able to show up in my home. But going on 180 days right now, like I'm not. This is not a lifestyle that I intend to continue at all. Fucking done, dude. I want out, bro.
I totally agree. Like when COVID first hit, like it was actually a nice refreshing change for me, like to be able to exercise at home and spend time with my kids more often, doing all that stuff. And about 3 months into it, I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And my gym in Los Gatos, they actually opened up because they have an outdoor CrossFit tent that they opened up to everybody. They brought some indoor equipment outside and stuff, and it's been fantastic. I'm feeling better than ever, to be honest. And I kind of like been thinking about this probably the past couple of weeks, because obviously a lot of the media is hyping one thing. Everybody wants to go back to the gym, or they'll say the other thing. Nobody wants to go back to the gym. They want to stay at home. And I really firmly feel like after the dust settles, per se, that a majority of the people will go back to the gym at a reduced capacity. So instead of like 4 or 5 days a week, say, it might be maybe 2 or 3, and that's fine. Because I mean, we're kidding ourselves if we feel like we're going to get the same value from home fitness as we would at gym fitness. Because I mean, I have like 5 kids doing homeschool, and I'm looking at these kids and I feel so sorry for them, because
are they all your own kids?
Yeah, they're my
own. Oh, nice.
Me and my one wife here.
I thought you just randomly picked up some kids. Like, yeah, you want to homeschool with us? Like, hop in, dude.
that actually would be a good thing, but
it'd be really nice. It'd be like a Netflix documentary, Am Venture Partners and Montessori School at Jeff's. That's nice.
Bring your own lunch, but
bring your own Wi-Fi. Bring your own lunch. Yeah.
but I look at them at school, and like they desperately need like that face-to-face interaction with their friends.
Yeah.
And we're the same way. We literally are the same way. We can exercise at home, doing virtual whatever, but we're going to start to need that mental release, the ability to go to a gym. I don't even care if you don't talk to anybody, but just being around and seeing other people is going to be just like stress relief. It's going to be just a nice thing, somewhat back to normal. Mm-hmm. And so the future is, I believe, is that more people will go back to the gym than we previously anticipated. Obviously, though, it probably will be with the reduced capacity. And as a result, what's going to fill in the blank will be the things that we've already adopted, whether it's a Peloton or a carbon trainer or whatever it might be that you're using at home. You're still going to use it. It's just probably not as much.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great time, especially kind of the intersection that you're playing in with some of these technology companies that are focused on, maybe the at-home category, and having the touch points with physical bricks and mortar companies, because I want to believe that a bricks and mortar company can go and hire, some technology people and kind of, change their mindset to say, okay, I'm in the fitness industry of getting people results, and I'm not in the bricks and mortar of what goes on inside my club. But I think it's hard to do. And I think, like, you take a carbon trainer and you partner them up with a regional health club chain, then you really have the ability to say, hey, look, you could go do your Peloton, or you could do, my Carbon Edge, workout. We've got all of our trainers that you see every day on the Carbon, system, or, a mirror partnered up with, Extend Bar or what have you. And like, to me, that's like, all right, I got my technology partner, and that's what they wake up and think about, to use your phrase. And I got my bricks and mortar membership partner. They're like my, they're almost like my distribution channel. And both of these kind of work in sync versus, I've heard so many times over the years, like a health club chain say like, hey, I'm building my own billing software. I'm like, dude, call me in 5 years when that fucking thing blows up. Or like, hey, I'm building my own CRM. I'm like, with what people here know how to build a CRM, dude? So like, do you think like we're finally at a point potentially where the bricks and mortar guys actually want to talk to the technology guys? Technology guys say, hey, look, I can actually leapfrog the bricks and mortar or maybe these other digital groups because I can now do a partnership, and it's not, window shopping exercise on either side. Like, they actually need each other.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, we can just listen to the news in the past few months and like how almost every fitness company, every brick and mortar, like just threw their arms up in the air and was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Obviously, a lot of personal trainers started to quickly go to Zoom and do like one-on-one sessions with via Zoom. But then slowly and surely, a lot of companies started to release their own like virtual way of connecting. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those companies, whether it's an app or whatnot, started to develop partnerships with, whether it be a health club or whatever it might be. And I think we're at the intersection of it's here to stay, but what does that look like? And for those companies that are looking to, keep their members, like health clubs per se, like what else can they do? Here's an example with Exponential. Like, I was talking to Garrett Marshall over Exponential some time ago, it would be July. And, they were releasing the Emerge program. So they have their Exponential Go platform. It's a way for their members who are normally members of their boutique brands to connect, I guess you call it digitally or virtually, whatever you want to call it. But then they released the Emerge program. And so what it was going to be able to do is they were going to partner with particular brands. One in particular, what they wanted to do was partner with Aura, the ring, to measure sleep quality and HRV stuff. And then they had some other like dimensions too, like, headspace, mindfulness, meditation stuff, and so forth. And so I think you have these like Exponential, it's brick and mortar, it's boutique brands, franchises, right? And so you have a company like that that's well renowned, and it's a great company. But they too, they're literally looking for partners to bring in that tech space to help their memberships. And I think that's just like an example of what I foresee the future to be with almost nearly everybody.
Yeah, I just saw they announced something with ClassPass and like a video exclusive video partnership. So it's definitely interesting times in the space, and I think we can actually reach more people. And I think as more and more data comes out about, this invisible COVID, if you're healthy and you take good care of yourself, the probability of that taking you down is almost zero. When you look at like the CDC website, before they took it down for political reasons, it said like, this person passed away from COVID, but it said, they were obese or they had hypertension or they had diabetes, which are three things that we don't need a cure for. I got a cure. It's get your ass in the gym, and eat healthy, and like that's your cure. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I just read a study like just this morning or last night where it was the number one single risk factor for like COVID related, I hate to say deaths or just having some very serious complications is related to obesity.
Yeah. And then they say, oh, what are these other countries doing, to control it? Well, no one talks about this, but it's the fact that their populations are not in the same condition that we're in. Yeah. And when they say like, oh, this Asian country, like, has better contact tracing. No, they just don't have a lot of people that are overweight.
Yeah. I think that's actually going to translate to somewhat like of an exercise as medicine approach too, with a lot of content. You can say do fitness and, be fit, but in some regard too, you can use the term exercise is medicine, not only to treat, manage, diabetes or whatever it might be, but also to reduce your risk of contracting, coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a lot of potential upside here. I think more and more people are going to be living a healthy, active lifestyle outdoors. So we're glad that we reconnected with you directly here and able to help you in your pursuits with your company. So we always leave on a quote. So you got a good quote that you have as part of your quote library that somebody says that's Kazmucha. I heard that before. Well,
it's not a new quote that no one's probably ever heard, but it's something that like I remember putting in my kitchen table, or in our kitchen. We have a little board, and at the beginning of the year, January 1st type of thing, I made this cork board sign, and it said, just, you'll be amazed at the things you do when you try. I put that up for my kids, and I put that up for myself and my wife. And it's something that, we look at every day for the year. And given the conditions and the turbulence of this year per se, right, it sucks. But one thing that we can do is always try our best and do hard things. And then when we do that, we can't be unhappy about anything, because we're actually, we're growing. And when we grow, we succeed.
Awesome. All right, Gannon, let's get 7 win-loss calendars out to the Kazmucha family.
No problem.
These win-loss calendars, like every day, you decide whether you win or lose, you'll love it. So we'll send you a 7-pack on that.
I'll get it out to you, Jeff.
Yeah, cool. All right, man. Well, great to talk to you. I'm glad our audience here can get a little dose of how to look at early stage companies and maybe think more broadly about how they're doing things and who they're doing it with. And as the industry grows, everybody wins. So we will be in touch. Let's help each other out, help our clients out, and go Halo.
Cool. Thanks, David. Thanks, Pete.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Have a good weekend.
All right.
Take care. See ya.
As we continue to build our Halo Talks email notification database, want to offer you a free $10 instant gift card from our friends at Promotion Vault. Also to show you how easy it is to offer your members and prospects and clients the ability to get desired actions out of them and reward them in real time, go to halotalks.com, put your email address into the pop-up box, see how it works, get a free $10 gift card from us, and keep listening and making everybody great.